Hey guys, welcome to the REsimpli Mastermind call. Super excited to have Billy on the call. My name is Sharad. I'm the owner and founder of REsimpli, also an active investor in Northwest Indiana market right outside of Chicago. Billy kind of talked about his experience. We had Tara, Billy's wife, on the call last week, and they're doing about 25, 30 contracts a month. Or they did like more than 30 couple of months ago and really scale their business. They've only been investing for 3 years now. And Tara talked about the marketing side. So they're very good at being in their lanes. Billy is more on the operational and sales side, and Tara is more on the marketing side. So if you didn't watch the call last week, I'll put a link to it. Highly recommend checking out that call. There's lots of great information that she shared on the call. Billy, we had Tara on the call last week, and she has the bragging right so far. That was the most attended mastermind call. So let's see if you can break the record. We had over 55 people on that call, and she shared tons of great information. So no pressure. Yeah. But yeah, if you can give a little bit intro about yourself, and then we can jump into kind of what you guys are doing and how you guys are crushing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tara always beats me on the podcast numbers. It's a lot easier for a pretty girl to get viewings rather than some intimidating bald dude. So I'll take it. Um,
Uh,
but no, so my Tara and I don't know if all of you are, maybe not every single one of you is on the call that Tara did a couple weeks ago. She runs like the marketing and finance side of our business, and I run the sales and ops side of our business. We've been doing wholesaling now for just exactly like 3 years now. Have done several hundred deals. I don't know the exact number now, but most of those deals being in the last 12 months. Um, we are in the DFW market in and around it, primarily wholesaling, also fixing and flipping, keeping rentals, buying and subdividing some land. I don't really mess with mobile homes. I've never done a mobile home myself. I've only wholesaled them. And that's about the gist of what we're doing out here as far as just what we're in and what we're doing.
if you can give us a little context about kind of how many deals you're doing and team size, then we can jump into the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. So I currently have on my sales side of the organization, 5 acquisition guys. I have a VP of acquisitions who's also quasi one of my act guys still until we bring one more guy on here in a couple weeks. He's starting 2 lead managers, 3 dispo guys, and 2 TCs. And then Tara runs the marketing, and she has like a marketing assistant that works for her as well, as an assistant and helps with marketing, is what we look like there. And then a project manager, and a property manager as well.
Right. And then you guys are doing about 25, 30 contracts a month,
Yep.
roughly, right?
We're contracting in between 25 to 33 contracts a month, just depending on the month and just lead flow, how that's going, and what the guys are closing. So anywhere from 25 to 35 deals a month.
And you have about 75, 80% close rate on those contracts, right?
Yeah, we sit right at about a 75% close rate.
Okay. Which is
Working,
incredible.
yeah, working on, and I love that people are like 75%, like that's crazy good. And I'm like, I want it to be like 95%.
Yeah.
Um, just getting better with title issues, getting better with evaluating numbers, getting better at finding buyers, are things that we're always working on refining and getting better at.
Oh, awesome. So guys, if you have any questions, you can either put it on the chat or like raise your hand in the Zoom, and then I can bring you on. But Billy, the first question I have is like, you guys have been investing for 3 years and in a super competitive market, DFW. What are some of the things you guys have done to just really scale your business to the level that you guys have?
Yeah, I think the number one thing, it really comes down to scaling your business anywhere, not just in a very competitive market, but is consistency, and just knowing your numbers. So consistently marketing, consistently talking to your leads, consistently making offers, all end up adding up to what you want your business to produce. So like we know that if we want to do X amount of deals a month, we have to do X amount of marketing per month. Those leads aren't just going to magically appear. I'm not going to magically do more deals. And that goes down into such granular detail of like, if we want to do X amount of deals, like as an entire organization, we have to make a total amount of this many phone calls, thousands of phone calls to do this many deals in a month. So it comes down to KPIs, knowing your numbers and being consistent on marketing and offers and closing and selling, everything there. It's sales is one of those things that you don't really ever get to let off the gas pedal. Or if you do, you only back down to 50 miles an hour versus 80. But if you ever go back to zero, it's like getting a semi started again. It takes a while.
Question from Anthony: what marketing channel has been your highest KPIs?
Our highest KPI, I'm not sure exactly what the question was, but most of our deals do come from direct mail, if that answers that question.
And your ROI on that is about 4 to 5x on that on direct mail.
Our return on ad spend on that sits around a 3.5 to 4x.
3.5 to 4x. Okay. And then so 80% of your deals are coming in from direct mail. And what are some of the other marketing channels that you guys are doing in your business?
Yep. The other parts of our business, from where the deals come in from, are agent referrals, for sale by owners, pay-per-click, pay-per-lead, other wholesalers, JV deals. We do quite a few JV deals every month as well. The last podcast I did with Ryan Dossie, we helped a gentleman on there move, actually 2 different guys on there move 4 deals. So a lot of stuff comes from just doing JV deals with people as well.
All right, Cameron has a question. What KPIs do you hold your acquisition guys accountable to? And you guys are doing in-person and virtual. And there's part 2 of the question: how many appointments are they attending each week, and how many contracts are they responsible for?
Absolutely. So I'm going to work those backwards as I remember it. So each acquisition guy on our team is responsible to get 7 contracts a month. And our average assignment fee sits right around 20,000. So you can do the math on that. That's how many contracts that they're required to get. And then as far as KPIs, because I knew that would be a question, so I had my entire sales KPI spreadsheet here, to make sure I didn't miss any of them.
Yeah. So the other part of how many appointments are they attending each week to get 7 contracts per month?
Yep. So we run like a little bit of a hybrid model. So sometimes they may go on the appointment, sometimes they may not. They just lock it up virtually. It is very dependent on that seller and the relationship they have with them, if they need to go or not. But in order to get that amount, our guys are going on about a dozen appointments a month, in order for them to get 7 deals. But that doesn't mean like every one that became a deal they were on an appointment with as well. That could have just been totally virtual over the phone. But there are those opportunities that you do need to be in front of that seller to get that deal. And I have really good friends that run completely virtual wholesaling businesses. And more often than not, when we go to a house on an appointment, we are constantly beating those people out that are virtual because we were there, even though we're a lower price. They're just like, yeah, I don't know who this company is from South Carolina that wants to buy my home. They're 10 grand higher than you. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. We live here, we're from here, we come here, and we're here to do this deal. Why don't you have them come over to your house and take a look at it as well? And they're like, oh, they just do it all virtual, and they did a Google drive-by. And I'm like, yeah, do you think they're actually going to buy your house? So getting in person when you need to is super important. But on average, each one of my acquisition guys is going to about 10 to 12 appointments a month. And as far as what KPIs am I tracking on the sales team? So it starts with the lead managers on my team. So they should be passing off. And the way we look at what should be passed off to the acquisition guys is, I don't like, a lot of people are like, what's a qualified lead? To me, a qualified lead is just someone who has a situation. I don't care early on what the price is, their timeline, their motivation, or their condition. That's what the acquisition guy should care about. All the lead manager should care about to qualify that lead is, does that person have a situation? And if they have a situation, that should be passed off to the acquisition manager to work. So of those leads that come in, the number there that should be passed off is roughly 45%. So 45% of all our leads that come in get passed to the acquisition team. The other 55% are no contact made or just long-term follow-up with
So these, sorry,
that
these
seller.
includes also take me off the list.
Yes, and that
Okay.
includes taking out the list and everything. So about 40 to 45% is passed off to the acquisition manager to take and work.
Okay. And what
So
about on the acquisition side? Like, what's the next part of the funnel for you? What are the KPIs that they're held accountable
yeah,
for?
so then I take as a percentage of those of the 40, so say 100 leads came in, 45 of those should have been passed off to the acquisition team. Of those 45, how many did we make an offer on? So that's your qualified lead to offer made. I push my team to make offers on 90% of those. So I track like, hey, you were given a qualified lead. We should be making an offer 90% of the time. There is 10% of the time where like maybe it shouldn't have been passed off, or they're just out of their mind on whatever it might be. Like you're not actually making that offer. So pass off to offer made, 90%. And then we do the offer acceptance. So what is your percentage of how often is your offer getting accepted when you make that offer? So if 45 leads came over, 90% of that is, don't judge me on my math, but say it's 40 for a round number. Of those 40, how many contracts did we get? And so you're essentially looking at your offer acceptance rate. And for us, we should be sitting around a 25% offer acceptance. So if we make 40 offers, we should be getting 4 deals out of there. I think that comes out to 25%.
No, so
Yes.
25% would be 10. So 40
10.
offers and 10 accepted contracts. And
Yes,
then of
that's
those, 75% are closing right now, but you guys are trying to push that up to 95%.
correct.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
But on a day-to-day basis, like these would be like the lag metrics, right? So to speak, like this is the output we want to see. What's like on a day-to-day basis, like what is it that you want your team to be doing? The actions that you want them to be taking.
yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pull them up here right next to me, so I've got them. So that is the outbound calls is always something we track. Talk time as well as in-person appointments. So on my team, it'd be a little difficult to explain, but they have to hit at least one of those buckets a day in order to get leads the next day. So like they can't only make 10 calls a day, only have 20 minutes of talk time and not go on any appointments. If you do that, you're not getting leads the next day. So those are like the three for the acquisition guys that I'm managing them on a day-to-day basis. Is that are you making at least 50 phone calls a day? Are you having over 90 minutes of talk time? Or if you didn't hit those two, were you on more than 2 appointments? And if you're on like 3 appointments in a day, I understand why your talk time was lower and why you didn't call as many people, but they have to hit one of those buckets in order to stay turned on for leads the following day.
Are you also tracking, looking into what percentage of the time your acquisition person is like actually talking on the phone versus the seller talking on the phone? Typically you want the seller to do most of the talking. Is that something you guys look into?
Yeah,
Like
so
listen to calls and stuff?
that's something we definitely train on. Kind of goes to like the 80-20 rule. We want 80% of the time you want that seller to be talking, and 20% of the time you want to be talking. My favorite acronym, and like my old boss from my corporate world taught me this acronym, but it's the acronym WAIT. Has anyone ever heard the acronym WAIT?
I've heard, I don't know what it stands for. Yeah.
Stands for why am I talking?
Why am I talking? Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to use that a lot because I'm a talker. And I found early on that I would talk to a salesperson. I'd just be talking to talk and fill up the airspace and just keep it going, keep it going.
Right.
Whereas like silence is such a better killer on a sales call than it is to fill up that airspace. Like if you're just silent for 30 seconds with the seller, they get nervous and they just start talking. They just start word vomiting. So the 80-20 rule, 20% of the time you should be talking, 80% of the time they should, is something we push for. I know that in your, is it the AI now breaks that out?
Yeah. It does. Yeah.
So that's something we've just recently started looking at with that being kind of new and available, but we don't manage that as a KPI yet
Yeah.
on how much of time on the call are they talking versus the seller. But that is something that we tell them basically shut up and let the seller talk.
Yeah, that's something we looked at for our acquisition. At best, he was talking 50%, or like 60%. Like the seller was talking 60%. So immediately it's like, hey, be okay with, the silence. Just be okay with it. Let the seller talk. Hey, and also, yeah, if you can just give a little bit of context about how are your acquisition guys paid? Do they have a base plus commission, or do they just have commission? And if commission, like what does that structure look like?
Yeah, so they do have a base plus commission, but the commission's a draw off their base. So it's easier just to explain it in terms of commission. So if it's an inbound lead, they're paid 10% of it, of the assignment fee. And if it's a prospecting where they have an agent or relationship, or they pulled off the MLS or for sale by owner, or they JV deal, they get paid 20% on it. And then they're also put into a bonus structure for a quarter, where in a quarter closed revenue, everything between 200 and 300,000, they get an additional 5% bonus. So 5 grand on that. And then everything over 300,000 in a quarter, they're given a 10% bonus. So if they close 400,000 in a quarter, they would in total get a $15,000 bonus on top of their 30,000, or no, 40,000 that they already made. So they'd be making 55,000 in that quarter total.
And those numbers, that's for each individual. Like it's not for the entire company. It's for each individual that they have to hit this, then they become eligible for bonus.
Yep, that's each individual on the team.
Right.
So
And then
each person on our team is required to do 140,000 added to the pipeline every month. And then if you take that 75% close rate, that leaves you with 100. And that's how you get to that 300K in a
300.
quarter.
Okay.
But I've had guys, one of my guys last month did 190,000 in a month. The month before that, he did like 170. The month before that, he did like 150. So he will be getting into that 400K bonus with like, I don't know, 15, $20,000 in bonus.
Nice. And do you have a minimum assignment fee that you hold your acquisition guys accountable for? I know your average is 20, but do you say, hey, like you have to get minimum 15 on a contract?
Nah, I'll do anything for $1.
Okay.
Not a minimum amount. We do
No,
start our
for their bonus structure.
for their bonus, not anything related to the bonus
Okay.
structure. So like we've done deals that have actually I've had to bring money to closing, because literally at that point I was like, we're just helping the seller. I'll come out of pocket $500 and just get that deal done for the seller. And we've had deals all the way up to our biggest assignment fee was 344,000. So like
Nice.
anything and everything in between, most of them average out at 20K. But we don't have a minimum that we'll do. We do want
Okay.
to JV. Like I'm not going to JV a deal with someone for like a grand or even like two or three or four. Mainly because like the dispo team won't give your deal focus.
Right.
I had this discussion with some guys the other day. They're like, hey, like we just do a flat 5K fee on all the deals you dispo for us. And I'm like, I know that sounds good, but like my guys just won't look at it, because they're going to look at all my other deals that are going to pay them $2,000 a deal versus 500 if they sell yours.
Right.
Uh, but as far
That
as
makes
like
sense.
minimum that we do with direct to sellers, no, like we'll do anything, because like it costs us marketing money and
That
time and
makes
effort
sense. Yeah.
to the team. So
Yeah. And then question from Anthony. Are you selling to any of the big hedge funds in your area?
I have never sold a deal to a hedge fund.
So
So
these are all local investors,
these are
fix and
all
flip or landlords.
these are all local investors. I actually saw Fred on here. I don't see his name anymore. I'm pretty sure Fred's bought a deal for me in the past. Fred
Cool.
Robertson. I saw his name on here, but
Nice. All right.
he's an
Question
OG
from
from VFW.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's a big market and one of the most competitive markets in the country. So yeah, more power to you guys for like crushing it in that market. All right, question from Carl. Where are you hiring your lead managers and what does your onboarding process look like for them?
So my lead managers, they're all US based. I am I have tried very, very hard to hire VAs, even on like the lead management side. My advice, like if you're growing and scaling an organization, if you're paying a lead manager anywhere from 50 to $75,000 a year with their bonus, having the right person who's able to talk properly to a seller and have those really good discussions is going to save you 3 deals a year, which is their entire pay. So my guys are all in-house. And ironically, I think just about every single person on my team is referral or social media post, whether they're lead managers or acquisition or dispo. I don't believe in going and making a job post and finding people. No, it just, if someone's on Indeed, they're on there because they aren't good at their job currently and they don't have one, or they're looking because they're not good at their job for whatever reason. It's very, very seldom you'll find a rock star on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or whatever. So all of our people come from referrals or just me making a social media post and people referring people over.
Nice. All right. And question from Cameron: are you guys running off the LOA framework for sales? I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
Yeah, Cameron, do you want to clarify? You on the call? Yeah, I don't know what that.
Sure. Sorry, like lowest acceptable offer. I think I heard someone say that you guys are like getting sales training from like Joe from Eric Brewer's team. So my question was pretty much saying, are you guys like going heavy like anchor offers and then trying to either are you getting lower cash offers from everything, or are you like no bidding stuff and like getting higher offers on the second time, if that makes any sense? Does that question make sense? Sorry.
Kind of. So like we have a lowest acceptable offer, or a max allowable offer, I guess is what I would call it, on our side. So like we look at more of an MAO where we know we could go up to this dollar amount and they just start down from there based on seller's motivation, timeline, whatever it might be. So typically they aim to start our assignment fee at like 30,000 and it ends up landing around 18 to 20.
Cool. Okay. And then are you guys listing stuff on the MLS to dispo it, or are you just pretty much dispoing to like Investor Lift and like your list that you curated?
We do not use Investor Lift, and I don't list on the MLS. It is purely relationships that we have with sellers and our email list that we've built. I'm also a believer that email lists don't work anymore. They worked great in 2021 when you blast a deal out and 15 people would call you and someone would take it. Now it's all about relationships, and that's why we have built out our dispo team to, when we got a deal, like Paik knows exactly who to call for it and sells the deal in minutes because he knows who that buyer is. So it's dispo nowadays is a lot more about a relationship with the sellers than it is blasting it on. And it's no offense to Investor Lift. I've looked at it, I'm just not a user of it, but like putting it on there and like hoping someone, spray and praying versus getting on the phone and talking to a seller and building a long-term relationship with someone who is flipping. So it kind of goes down to I would rather have, like, I have an email list of 75,000 buyers for DFW and Waco area, just all North Texas. I would rather have a list of 100 buyers who each do 20 flips a year. I would rather have that all day. Because one, if you have to call 100 people to sell a deal every single time, boom, it's done. Versus just blasting out an email list of 75,000. That's a spray and pray method. We do it, but it's more about brand recognition for us. Putting our name out there to have the brand recognition of buyers like, damn, like Bumblebee Properties, which, sidebar, we're actually changing our dispo brand. You guys will, anyone who follows us or whatever, it will be Honeypot Investments will be on our dispo side. That way they have that brand recognition of like, damn, Honeypot is out there cranking out deals in DFW. Like I'm getting, 6, 8 emails a day from them, and I'm seeing 40 new deals a month from them. Same like we're like, like Myers of Home Buyers is huge in DFW, and like New Western, to where like we've gotten to the point where we have that brand recognition where, I'll go to a real estate meetup and people are like, oh, who are you? I'm like, I'm Billy. They're like, oh, like, where are you from? I'm like, Bumblebee. And people are like, oh, you're Mr. Bumblebee. And, so like, that's why we use that email blast as for brand recognition more than anything. And it does sell deals. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't sell deals. Like buyers do come out of there, but most of your deals will sell through really good relationships with buyers.
Cool. No,
and one other thing to keep in mind, again, I've never used Investor Live, but I used to receive a couple of emails in the past from them, and they would just send me random emails just because you can like do the whole state, and I just unsubscribe. Now I don't get any emails. Same thing on the text. So just something to be careful about, because once a buyer unsubscribe because they're getting emails from another investor in your market, then you just get unsubscribed from your buyers list also. So it's always good to have your own buyers list, something to keep in mind.
And to add to that, and this isn't bashing on Investor Lift in any way, but if they would have given me an answer, I probably wouldn't be saying this, but they haven't. But I went on there and I was about to subscribe to it. And it's not cheap. It's, $30,000 to $50,000 a year, depending on what mode you're in. But I asked them, I said, hey, I've got these 10 properties that I pulled out of my system that closed more than 90 days ago. So they should be recorded in all deeds and everywhere. These 10 properties. And I was on like they were trying to pitch me. I was like, pull up these 10 properties and I want to see if those people show up as a buyer. And I was on a third of them. And then it was like some of my best buyers in my market. And I said, show me these 10 deals because they should be buyers, right? Like on the system, like, oh yeah, absolutely easy. 0 out of 10 showed up as a buyer for that area. And I'm like, why would I pay for this? So
Yeah.
take that as you'd like, but like if 0 out of 10 of my buyers and myself who are true cash buyers don't show up on there, I've got a problem with your software.
So cool, great answer. And question from Anthony, how do you guys make your offer? Are you guys using ARV minus repairs, or are you guys starting, like what's your formula for the acquisition guys to come up with the offer?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, just like every freaking person out there, I have a calculator that we use. Happy to share it with anyone. If you want it, shoot me a message on Instagram, Billy_Ferns. And I think my wife has created a form to where like you could basically download that sheet now. But I have it set up a few different ways. So there in the short form, yes, it's 75% minus repairs minus an assignment fee is how we do it. But there's also a exit strategy calculator within there of what's the best exit strategy on this house. Because sometimes you might be able to make 12 grand on a wholesale, but you could easily make a total, including the wholesale fee, 40 on the flip. You should do that flip all day. Or, hey, I can make 20 on the assignment, but I'd only make 40 on the flip. To me, I'm going to assign that. It's not worth just making another 20 grand on that. So, and then there's also like the 75% rule, 80%, 85%, 70% rule. Like just depends on the area and knowing how that area works and what buyers are looking for there. So we know that like when we go to the outskirts of like DFW and we're in like some godforsaken town of 600 people, like we're probably running deals there at like 60%. So it's really knowing your area. But then I know if I'm in Arlington, we're running it at 80, 82, 83% for an end buyer.
Wow. A question from Rahul. On the deals you do virtually, do you set the expectation on the first call that you would like the seller to be able to make a confident yes or no decision handled in the very first call?
Yes and no. We're not as bold about it on like, are you able to make a confident yes or no decision today? You know, like we're not like hitting them like a script, but it's like you're more so going into like, so like if everything does work out, like are we able to move forward today? You know, you're having a little more gentle of a conversation than that hard black or white. Is it a yes or no? And like something you got to remember is like you're probably getting a lot of that from like these sales scripts or like these sales trainings that are for vehicles or for buying a boat or whatever. Like a house is someone's probably most prized possession that they have more equity in and time in and money in than anything else. And making that decision is very scary for them. Especially when you're sitting there virtual over the phone and you're like, are you ready to make a yes or no decision today? They're going to be like, well, I am. That's why I called you. But like, you have to have that rapport with them in order for them to make that yes or no decision. So like, I kind of flip that around of like, do you feel like you have enough rapport with them to where they feel comfortable enough with you to make a yes or no decision based on your number?
That's a great answer. Ron, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. What's going on, Billy? I got a few questions that you could just spitfire through, unless you feel like it needs obviously a much more expanded answer. Let's start with what do you mean by controlling your acquisition managers getting leads the next day? And like you can make that like a very concise answer. I just want to know what you mean by that.
Basically, if someone isn't doing their job the day before of calling enough sellers, being on the phone enough, or going on appointments, I'm not going to give you new leads the next day, is all it means. So like if you're just slacking off the day before, you're not going to get new leads the next day because you didn't work hard enough the day before.
And I'm assuming that's a function. I'm relatively new to REsimpli. Is that a functionality I'm assuming within REsimpli where you can control certain people get leads on a particular day?
Yeah. So in order to shut them off of leads, I just put them on vacation mode for the day.
Fair enough. And so the assumption is you work with what you already have from the previous day and the day before that. Once you actually fulfill your requirements, which is I think you said the 50 calls or the 90 minutes of talk time. Once you actually follow through with what you said you would do, then we can actually give you new leads. But until then, show me the receipts, and then we can give you new leads. Is that the idea?
Yep, exactly.
Cool. How do you define an appointment, like not a in-person appointment, but how do you define an appointment within your organization when you said that's one of those requirements that you require within a day is to have those 2 to 3 appointments? Like, how do you define that? Is that just like a process call for you? Is that like, what is that?
That's an appointment to us is literally at their house with them.
Okay. I know you mentioned in a day you would need them to do 50 calls, 90 minutes, and 2 appointments.
Yep.
So within a day, you would need them to have 2 in-person appointments?
So they have to hit one of those buckets in a day.
Oh, one of
They
those
might
buckets.
they might have 0 appointments, but they had, 120 minutes of talk time and 75 calls. That's fine. But there might be a day where it was like, hey, I was only talk time 30 minutes and I called 25 people, but I was at these 2 appointments for 2 hours each, really just diving deep with these sellers. Okay, you're at 2 appointments, like spending time with sellers. So it's essentially like they're
So basically showing that they're active doing something, they're going on
Correct.
appointments or making calls. Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha. So just show one receipt. Okay, makes sense. As far as this might be a 2-in-1, but my first question is I'm really obsessed with just like high performance cultures, whether it be like high performing like athletic teams, Chicago Bulls, like Golden State Warriors. Like you take any high performing team, whether it be athletes or whatever. I'm just like really obsessed with the psychology of like what makes that sort of synergy work.
Mhm.
It seems like you guys have really hit some sort of chord that works. Can you speak to what you feel like is the key or what you feel like is the core that you guys have hit that allows you guys to kind of have an elite culture within your organization?
Absolutely. And to us, it's caring more about the employees than you do about the business itself. So like our employees know that we care about how successful they are. So we have a board in our office that has everyone's financial goals on it. Like, yeah, I want to save 10,000, put a down payment on a rental house. I want to pay off 30% of my debt. I want to do X, Y, whatever it might be. Everyone has their goals set up there. And knowing that you have that financial goal, it then turns into what do I have to do and how do I have to perform at work in order to hit those deals or in order to hit that number. So that's part of it. And the other part of it is just like culture alone is super important. And I'm on a Facebook page called like Sales Talk with Sales Pros. Someone made a post on there this morning basically saying like culture doesn't mean shit if you have like a like hungry sales team. And I disagree. You have to have a culture that your sales team could be cultivated in to be high performers and stay high performers. Because without a culture around it, like a sales rep will burn out in 90 days. But if you have a good culture around it, you could have a sales rep for years. So having a culture around it is super important.
Thoughts on any thoughts or words of not encouragement, but just like any words from someone who has been able to build. I think building a good culture is not easy, right? I think it can go toxic very, very quickly, especially when your heart maybe or when your brain over like steps in front of your heart, right? Because you said like you care, right?
Mhm.
But when you put the business in front of the employees, that's like your brain, you know like stepping in front of your heart, right? It can go really toxic really quickly. Do
Mhm.
you have any thoughts on that or any words that you can shed on that,
Yeah. So I mean,
or
your
any
culture also.
actions, like any tangible actions?
Yeah, like if you don't have core values, you should. And that's what you abide by. And your core values should also reflect your culture. So like our core values are be 1% better every day, be positive, and do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And like those three, I also make sure I never fuck those up ever. Like I do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it. I'm always positive in front of my team, and I'm always being the best I can in front of them. Like if you can't put your own values in front of your people, like that's how you don't have that culture. So we also have culture awards at our company. Like who's displaying it every Monday morning when we're doing our big sales huddles, the guys are saying like, hey, I saw Andreas do this last week, and like, talking about like how he distributed his core values, or I saw this person do that. So always having it be a center focus is super important to have it be part of the culture, and get more creative with your core values. And like integrity, prosperity, faithfulness, and love. You know, like, don't go AI your core values.
Yeah.
Spend time coming up with your core values.
Yeah. I think
As
anyway, yeah, I
I'm
mean, I just feel like,
as I'm typing into ChatGPT, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
yeah,
No,
I mean, like
I
some of the
appreciate
things
that,
like
Billy.
integrity is like, it's a given. Like you should not have to tell someone, hey, can you be
Exactly.
honest? Like it's just a given. Yeah. Yeah. Great
Yep.
answer on that.
Hey, can I
Billy.
ask one last question, Sharad?
Sure, go ahead.
Could you take us through like a day in the life of just your closer from the moment they like walk into the office? Like, obviously, right? Like there's whatever, 11, 12 days in
Yep, I got
12
it.
hours in a day, but just like,
I got
if
it.
you can.
Yep. So from the beginning, my AMs get here at about 9:30 in the morning. So from 9 to 10, they're calling their leads from the day before, like the night before, because sometimes people are crazy and they call in at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So they're calling 9 to 10 their hottest leads. People have contracts, like they're urgent stuff, right? At 10 a.m. every morning, we have a meeting going over KPIs. And then we do what's called a hot lead review every single morning. That hot lead review is, what deals do you have on your board right now that are going to become a contract within the next 2 weeks? And how can we make sure we don't lose those? So that's from 10 to 11 roughly. And then 11 on is them just doing their follow-ups, going on appointments, making offers, so on and so forth. And then every single person has a 1-hour one-on-one every single week with their sales manager. And then we also have a 1-hour sales coaching call with my sales trainer who's over at I'm going to mess up the name, Sanderlin, whatever that sales company is.
Sandler's.
Uh,
Yeah.
Sandler, thank you, Sandler.
Yeah.
His name's Joe. He's over there, 1 hour a week with him. And then we also do about a 90-minute meeting every week as well, just doing a call review. We're like in front of the entire group reviewing like a really good call that happened. And then also in the one-on-ones are reviewing like the bad calls of like, why didn't this go well? And what can we do to improve on that? So that's
Cool.
essentially what the
Awesome.
day in life and week of a salesperson looks like.
Thank
So
you,
the
Billy.
one-on-one is just with the sales director. The 90-minute is the whole team reviewing. And then the 1-hour sales coaching, that's with an outside third party bringing information back into the hive, pretty much.
Yeah, and I just use an outside person because one, it kind of comes down to just knowing your value and like where like it, my time is worth more than $500 an hour now. And for me to have someone do sales training for an hour costs $500, like I'm not going to do the sales training. I have a professional sales trainer train my salespeople.
100%. Appreciate that. Appreciate the time, Sharad.
Yep.
Yeah, of course. All right, question from Anthony. How are you handling it when multiple buyers have all want the same property? Do you do highest and best? And if you do, does that hurt your relationship with your buyers?
It doesn't. There's a time and a place for it though. If you told a buyer that, hey, if you're at the asking price and you go look at the property and they're at the asking price, and then you go, actually, we're going to take highest and best, yes, that hurts you. But if you do hey, like our starting price is 160,000, and you tell that buyer, I have 3 or 4 people going to look at the house, go take a look at it. Our starting price is, I don't remember what I said, 160,000. And they come back like, hey man, I'm interested. What do I got to be at? Be like, hey, we've got a few people interested. I'm not going to do a bidding war. Just tell me your highest and best, and I'll let you know at 3:30 today if you want or not. And that doesn't hurt a relationship. That's, because I don't like to do a bidding war. And the line that I use for buyers is like, hey, I don't do a bidding war. And the reason I don't is because I want you to just give me your highest and best number so that you don't get yourself in a position where this deal doesn't make sense and you don't want to buy from me in the future. So you tell me what number works for you and is a competitive offer for you. And we will take that, write that down, and compare all offers and take the highest and best. But then there's times too where we do like a first come, first serve. Hey, first person to be at 170 grand on this, it's yours. And it's done.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great
So
way to
how you
handle that.
deliver it's how you deliver the message.
Yeah, but you're setting the
versus-
expectation up front. It's not
Yep,
once you get an
exactly.
offer and then someone comes in higher, you're like, oh, sorry, I had another higher offer. Yeah, I think that's a great way to do that. Question from Tara Allen. Curious why you're rebranding on the dispo side.
Yeah, rebranding on the dispo side for a few different reasons. I don't think anyone needs to do this until you're getting into wholesaling 30 properties a month. Reason being is we wanted something that was more friendlier looking on the or more aggressive looking on the dispo side of honeypot investments versus Bumblebee properties. And also that if we want to be able to list all of our properties on our website, that we have a place for buyers to go to one website and sellers to go to another website. So it would look really weird if a seller went to our website and a seller saw 20 properties listed for sale, and they went to the website and they also saw their own listed for sale. Whereas so the honeypot investments will be a place for our lenders to go to, private money lenders, our buyers for deals, employees on the dispo side, and I'm missing something on there too. And deals. But anyways, there's a spot for the buy side and a spot for the sell side, where the sell side is more targeted towards being the seller side. Bumblebee properties for us is so that we have a site built out that caters more to the seller and a site that caters more to the buyer.
Yeah, no, makes total sense. All right. If you're not emailing the buyers your deals, how are you mass sending your deals to your buyers?
We are mass sending out our deals to our buyers. That's what we do for brand recognition. But after we email it out, we're calling and
the top 100 buyers or so.
Yeah, like as soon as we get a deal in an area, doesn't matter where it's at, we're instantly going and skip tracing down to the sellers, the flippers in that area in the past 2 years, calling them, see if they want to flip another one, if they know someone wants to flip another one, getting them to the property, showing them the property, and working to put them under contract. So like I mentioned earlier, the email is just for brand recognition out there.
Okay. And what percentage of your deals are virtual versus in person now?
I would say it's about 50-50. About 50% of our deals are done virtually and 50% are done in person. Okay. Or we've at least met them in person before we put it under contract. We might still be doing the contract virtually with them, but we've at least met them beforehand.
Got it. What percentage of contracts go into renegotiation for any reason?
It's fairly low. It's probably less than 10%. I will always call people out for renegotiating for the wrong reasons. If you agreed on a price and you thought you were going to make 15 and now you're only going to make 5, sorry, you suck at running numbers. That's on you. If you thought you were going to make 15 and you got to the house and the house doesn't have a roof and they told you there's a brand new roof on it, that's the time and place to negotiate. So just be ethical with it. I've met a guy out of Philly who flat out told me once, he's like, we renegotiate every single deal and we typically squeeze another $2,000 out of every single deal we do, whether for us or not. I'm like, that's just dirty. Like, that's
some great karma to carry around with you.
Yeah, I couldn't sleep at night. So
yeah. All right. How many offers per day are your closers expected to make?
That's a great question. They're making roughly 2 offers a day in order to hit their total number. And that's, sorry, 3 offers a day. That's through prospecting and inbound. 3 offers a day is roughly what they're making.
Cool.
Each.
Right. And how did you build your buyers list? Did you use Facebook groups or how did you go about it?
Several ways. The fastest way it grew was just by trading with other wholesalers. Go have lunch with guys, talk with them. Be like, hey, like, how big is your buyers list? I know email lists don't sell buyers, but it's great for brand recognition. I'd love to share my list with you. If you also have, an equivalent list or so, and a lot of times they'll do it. And then, and if not, you can be like, hey, here's, like, for example, I traded one of my biggest trades was I had a list of like 15,000 and this guy had 40,000. And I was like, hey, look, let's do this because obviously your list is a lot bigger. I will tell you who my 3 best buyers are. Like, hands down, they buy the most deals from me. You give me your list of 40,000, I'll give you my list of 15,000, and I will show you what 3 consistently buy 50 deals a year from me. Deal. We swapped lists. My list grew to like 50,000. Crazy enough, that same guy that I swapped lists from, like 2 weeks later, and I gave him those 3 guys, and he was like, hey, like, I have this deal out here, like, can't sell it. Do you want to give it a shot? Even though we have the same email list. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Took that deal, called literally one of the buyers that I gave him. And I was like, hey, Brad, did you talk to Joe? And he's like, never heard of him. Wow. Brad, who I gave him, bought that deal and we made like 40 grand on it. I'm like, I literally told you to call. told you to call Brad and you didn't call
I
Brad.
mean, you have to take action also. That's crazy.
I'm
It's
like,
crazy.
that's just wild. I'm like, I literally
Yeah.
handed you one that would have made you 40 grand, but he still made like,
Wow.
and we made like 40
Dude,
on
that's
it.
such a great tip about sharing your buyers list with Wholesaling. I never thought about it. That's like the first time I've heard. That's a super genius way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've traded it all the way up to our 80,000. I
Right.
think it's down to 75 because I got rid of like some junk. But like if
Right.
you have
Wow.
500 people on your list, find another guy with 500. Now you both have 1,000. Then go find someone with 1,000. Now you both have two, and then you both have four, and then it just multiplies on itself very quickly.
Right. That's a great way. Right. Any creative or effective drip campaigns that have been highly successful worth mentioning? Are you guys doing anything creative with drip campaigns?
Um, no, and this is probably not the answer you even want from me, Sherrod, but I'm not a fan of drip campaigns. I think that the human connection is so much more important. The only drip campaign that we will use is for no contact made. Other than that,
Right.
we don't use it. I
And
have
anything
people, I have a
creative you
mech
guys are
counter,
doing, or just consistency there?
just consistency. Just
Yeah.
your checks needs to be different each time, calling them, get them on the phone. The only drip campaign we will use is on a no contact made, and that's after we've attempted to call them for a month with like
Right.
100 phone calls and text messages. Then we'll throw them on a drip. And then even at that, after a month, it's like a very like once every 10 days type of drip. It's not even that often. And they come around eventually. They
Yeah.
respond out, but for the most part, I'm like, I have you salespeople. If I just use drips for everything, I wouldn't need all of you. And using actual human connection and knowing what you're texting to Barbara, who just recovered from cancer, and tying something in
Yeah.
personally to your message goes a lot further than, hey, this is Bumblebee Properties, just checking in again to see if you want to sell your house. That's why I'm not a fan of drip campaigns, because I do see how they can work, but that's why I'm not a fan of them, because I like to have that personal connection with sellers.
And also something to mention as A2P10 DLC is getting more and more, implemented by the carrier. So I think the approach, Billy, that you're taking is setting you up for the long term. So you don't have these like same messages going out and then people are opting out versus sending a message personal to each person. There's a very, very low chances of someone opting out of that message. So I think that's the great way to do that. Right. How are you mass estimating rehab cost on these offers?
So it's part of also that calculator I talked about earlier. I have a rehab bid sheet within there that we use. Now, every area might be different. If you're in California, your rehab's probably a lot higher than mine in, North Texas. But essentially it's, I don't know, there's probably like 35 line items in there, and it keeps it simple and it's just round. I wouldn't use this to buy a house based off of myself, but every time I use it compared to my actual bid sheet, which is like 150 line items, I'm typically within like 5% of it. And it's just a sheet that's like, oh, you have a roof, you put in the house square footage of 1,500 and it multiplies it by $5 a square foot. Like that's about how much your roof should cost, right? And then it's like, oh, you can do LVP through your whole home. That's 1,000 square foot house at $4 a foot. LVP in the whole house, $4,000. So it kind of gives you a general number, and my guys go through after they get photos of it or walk it or whatever, and they fill in that entire spreadsheet. And then at the bottom, and it also applies a 5% contingency, and it spits out the rehab number for them.
Oh, awesome. All right. Question from Cameron. What does your system look like in REsimpli to handle the leads, especially the follow-up? Do you push them to warm leads and tag them?
So our system looks at, starts with the new leads coming in, and then it goes to no contact made, and then lead manager nurture. Those first three columns are the lead manager's responsibility. And then after the lead manager nurture column, it goes to a column that I call process lead, or it's basically your qualified leads. That's where the lead managers took it and they pass it off to the acquisition manager. That's a process lead. And then, which is also like your underwriting. So the process lead, oh no, I'm sorry, it's process, underwrite, then offer made are the three columns. So process lead, underwrite deal, offer made. I know, Sherrod, with the ability to add some additional columns coming in the near future, some of the columns that I will be adding in there that I think will be awesome is that process lead, underwrite deal, offer made, contract sent. so that we could keep track of who actually has a contract and who doesn't, will be a big piece for us. So
Yeah.
that's the pipeline on the acquisition side.
Yeah, cool. And we'll write 5 minutes from the call, top of the hour. So we'll make this the last question. What are your hours of operations? Closers are encouraged to work outside of that if they want to earn more, correct?
If you have a real closer, time is irrelevant to them. They're going to answer the phone at 9 o'clock at night. They're going to answer the phone at 7 a.m. on a Saturday and go on appointments on a Saturday and a Sunday. So for a closer, I do have office hours, but at the end of the day, if you're hiring the right person, they don't freaking care when that lead is calling them. They know that that's money calling. But our office hours are from 9:30 to 3:30 or mandatory time. And then after that, guys go work from home, or most of the guys stay here and work till 6 or 7 o'clock anyways. But 9:30 to 3:30 is our mandatory office hours.
Okay. And then it's a follow-up. Are you guys doing anything to create a competitive culture within your sales team?
There's some stuff I'm working on to help drive down my cost per deal that would make it a little more competitive. But right now it is not competitive because like every acquisition guy owns their own leads. Where I might be changing something up here in the near future where like, hey, you've had that lead for 30 days, you didn't close them. Anyone on the team could take home and close that deal. So might be changing up something in the near future to create competition like that. But currently everyone just owns their leads and works their leads.
Cool. Awesome. Billy, thank you so much. This was absolutely incredible. We had so much engagement on this. Any final tips before you leave on like for someone on how to scale their business?
Hire slow and fire fast. I know people probably hear that all the time from books or podcasts or whatever, but like no shit. Like if someone's costing you money, not doing their job, they're not a culture fit, like don't drag it out. Like
Right.
I've fired people 8 days into the job. You just got to know when to pull the plug there. And then when it comes to growing your business out, is making sure that before you're putting people in place that you can actually support that team. I'm in a really big mastermind with other guys that are doing really big things and people who want to do other big things as well. And I see them like there was a guy this past weekend. I was up in Seattle at this mastermind, and he's like, "Yeah, I hired 10 salespeople this past month." And I'm like, "My
Wow.
God!" And I'm like, "How many deals a month are you doing?" He's like, "We're doing about 30 deals a month." And I'm like, "Cool that you're doing 30 deals a month, but with 10 sales guys." Means they're each only doing 3. And that probably means that some are doing 1 and some are doing 5. The guy's
Right.
eating 1 can't even eat at night. So make sure that you are building up a system and a process for your team to be successful, because if they can't be successful, they will leave you and then just puts you in a worse spot than you were. So you want to make sure your team is lined up for success and not just hey, you're a sales guy, make it or break it. Like it's on you to make sure that they have the opportunity to make it as well. And that's not just on them.
Yeah. And then it sounds like with what you guys are doing, the process that you have, you're following in, day out, just be very, very consistent, whether it comes to kind of what Tara talked about, be consistent with marketing and then be consistent with your sales process. If you have one good month or bad month, don't go about changing your process. Just trust the process and at least give it 3 to 6 months to kind of see what the results are out of that.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's a thing where I see people like they drop like one mail campaign and it flops and they instantly try to pivot to something else. And it's like, well, you had one mail campaign of $5,000 flop. Like you try having a month where we send $80,000 in mail a month and half of those campaigns flopped. Like we still didn't panic. We still went and we sent another $90,000 the following month in mail. So being consistent in that, in your marketing, in your sales efforts, don't make any drastic big changes of like, hey, like we're no longer in person, we're going all virtual, or like, hey, we're all virtual, now we're just going straight in person. Like if you're going to make a change, make it, but make sure you're doing your due diligence of why you're making it and that it's going to benefit the business and that you're doing it properly with the team as well. Because also like teams hate change, like drastic change and really fast change without like knowing why something's happening. So if you are going to make change, make sure you're making it for like the right decisions and that you've thought it through. What are all the implications that could happen, the pros, the cons, and then make that decision. And when you do it, implement it very, very well so you don't have turnover.
Awesome, Billy. Thank you so much. You and Tara are absolute powerhouse, and I'm so grateful that you guys are part of REsimpli. So I appreciate Anything we can help you with, please let us know. Thank you guys for being on the call. If you guys got some value out of it, I'm going to drop a link to Trustpilot. If you guys can take like 5 seconds and leave us a 5-star review, it helps our team. It helps everyone in our company just to kind of, be excited and see that they're adding value. Thank you so much, Billy. I appreciate it, man. I'll see you around. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.